Daniel Craig has portrayed Bond in 5 movies, from Casino Royale to No Time to Die, so let's rank them. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the movie ranker, and today I'm ranking all 5 Bond movies with Daniel Craig portraying the character. Now, these were all first-time watches for me. I'm fairly new to the Bond franchise. A few years back, I watched all the 60s and 70s Bond movies, but I haven't seen anything else since. So this was first time watch for me. And I just like to say, I like how these movies all kind of connected to the story. And it was real nice because a lot of the older films were kind of all one-offs. You know, there wasn't a lot of connecting tissue between the films. So that was real nice with these newer films. And plus, they were more violent and gritty and a little bit more grounded than before. Just a quick disclaimer, this is my list, and I'm probably not going to have the same list as you guys, but I'd like to see how you guys rank this franchise down in the comment section. I'll eventually get around to doing all these eras, but for now, we're sticking with Daniel Craig, and let's rank them. So for me personally, coming in the last place at number 5, I have to go with the movie Spectre. Now, this is the movie I felt that had the worst pacing. The only one I had to actually take a break after the 1 hour mark. It was just so uninteresting to me. I just couldn't get into this film. I felt like the tone of the movie was off a bit. I felt like they were trying to pay homage to the classic Bond movies while still being a modern version, and they try to mix these two together, and it just simply doesn't work for me, especially in the whole final act, the third act with Blofeld, and you learn that he's like Bond's stepbrother or some shit, and that's another reason why he became evil, because the way his father treated him. It's kind of weird. I think the movie's directed well enough. I just find the story to be pretty uninteresting. It was cool to see Dave Bautista in here, but he doesn't get nearly enough screen time. And yeah, not a terrible movie, but for me, easily the weakest out of these 5 Daniel Craig movies. Up next, at number 4, I got Quantum of Solace, or Solace. Yeah, I heard so many bad things over the years about this one. My expectations were very low going in, and maybe that's why this isn't last place. Still not a great movie, though. Definitely suffers from, really bad action sequences, the way they're filmed at least. The action is decent, but man, it's a bunch of quick cuts and shaky cam, and it's really hard to make out what's going on half the time. Definitely not as smooth as some of these other films. And the story can be a little bit overcomplicated for no reason. I feel like that's all part of this film being made during the writer's strike in around 2008 or so. Of course, they didn't have much time to put together this film with what they had, and it kind of shows. But the reason why this isn't in last place, I just had a better time watching this one. I wasn't as bored or anything. It's just not as well made. I think Green is not the best villain. He's not really intimidating or anything, but he just comes off as sketchy. But his motives in that does kind of feel like a throwback to the old villains of Bond movies, how he's trying to take over the utilities and make money off of it after taking up this part of the land, kind of blackmailing the head general or whatever of Bolivia, I believe. But yeah, it's a messy movie, but I think it was good enough, and it entertained me more than Spectre. And I just want to add, I do like how this movie kind of makes Bond go on a mission. He's going for revenge. There's some personal stakes involved where there shouldn't be in his job. And I like that by the end you get this great arc where he doesn't kill the guy who was responsible for, blackmailing Vesper and everything in the first movie, using her, and eventually she ends up winding up dead, right? So he wants to kill this guy so bad, but I love that by the end he kind of just lets him go into custody, and he doesn't kill him. And it's a great arc for him because throughout the first 2 movies he kills so many people, people that he should have brought in for questioning. So I like how this one ended. Messy movie, but good enough. Up next at number 3, we got the newest No Time to Die. Now, a lot of people absolutely love this movie. I thought it was good. I'm not in love with it like a lot of people are. It was a little too long. With the longest movie out of these films, it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes or something like that. Could have been trimmed down at least 20 minutes or so, but still has better pacing than Spectre. So it just goes to show how bad that movie was for me. I think the story's pretty interesting with this villain, who doesn't work for Spectre, who isn't working for the regular organizations that we've seen in the past in these films. He's coming from a different perspective. And, he is still an enemy, though, to everybody this time. And he's using, like, these nanobots and that it's like this virus that spreads but only attacks certain people. You have to program it for certain DNA. I think all that's super interesting, and the ending was a great way to end the Daniel Craig Bond era. I see a lot of fanboys online going on saying that that's the worst part about this movie. Me, I personally thought it was a great way to send off the character, kind of sacrificing himself. He doesn't want to take the risk of leaving the island at the end because he could infect his wife and daughter because he knows he has that virus on him or whatever it is. I thought that was pretty good. I felt like it lacked an emotional punch, though. It should have hit harder, given the circumstances. I think it could be written just a bit better to give that emotional punch because it just didn't really work for me in that regard. But I thought it was a good way to send him off. I think this one has great action. I think it's interesting what they do with all these characters, especially with like the side ones with M, Madeline, the finding out Bond has a daughter was pretty interesting. A lot of good things in this movie, and the action is very exciting. I just felt like it just went on a little too long for my liking, and I would have liked to seen a little bit more of this villain. He doesn't get nearly enough screen time for me personally, as I'd like to know more about him, But aside from that, I feel like it was really exciting and definitely a step up from the other two movies I already talked about. Coming up next at number 2, I'm going with Skyfall. Now, this one was a pleasant surprise because it's one of those movies that as it was going along, I was getting more and more invested and like, okay, I'm starting to love this one. Because at first, I was like, it just wasn't grabbing my attention. But like I said, as it went on, it was just getting better and better and better. And I love that. I'll start with the whole first sequence with the train. I thought that was a little bit silly and hokey. Some of the action, not very realistic, and some of the things that happen. It was still exciting and entertaining to watch, but it could have been tightened up a bit more, in my opinion. And we get Moneypenny shooting Bond by accident, and everybody thinking he's dead. And he's living the nice life, and he has to come back when MI6 is in danger. So that's when the movie starts to pick up for me, when Bond comes back, and it just slowly gets better and better. I love that he's failing all of his tests, his mental, his physical, everything like that. But in his mind, he thinks that he still got it, and it's just a very interesting place to see Bond in, not being the great marksman he once was, but he still is very intelligent, and he can outsmart his the villains and such. And I think the villain is very interesting in this one too. Being a former MI6 agent, knowing a lot of the secrets that they had and wanting revenge on M. And yeah, he's a great villain. I like when he takes out that thing out of his face and it makes his face all messed up. Looks very cool. Kind of reminds me of a classic Bond villain. And yeah, he doesn't mess around. That whole scene where he puts the shot on top of the girl's head and him and Bond have a marksman challenge. I thought that was really great, full of tension. And yeah, M also gets a great amount of screen time in here, and it's very personal about her. Bond on one hand doesn't seem qualified for the job anymore, but she still has faith in him, while the company MI6 in general don't have faith in M anymore because they think that she made a lot of bad decisions over the years and that. So it's real interesting seeing what's happening with these two characters, and M gets a great send off in here. Unfortunately dying, but I feel like it was earned, and it was kind of satisfying the way the third act plays out. It almost reminded me of Last Blood, even though this movie came out first, where, Bond goes to his old homeland. It's on like on a farm or whatever type of place, and they lure in the bad guys to take them out there. I thought it was a really cool final act. Like I said, this movie just has great pacing, and it just gets better and better as the story goes along. So I had a lot of fun with Skyfall. It exceeded my expectations from the way it started to the way it finishes. So I had a really good time with it. But for me, coming in the first place, I have to easily give it to Casino Royale. Um, just off the bat, I have to say this is the most memorable film out of all of these. It was the first one I watched. I watched them all in order, and this is the one I still remember the most. The other ones, I'm like, was that in this movie or that movie? I had a really hard time to think about it, and I had to like go read up on Wikipedia or watch little recaps to remember what actually happened in those movies. But this one is incredibly memorable. Right out the gate, we get incredible action with that whole chase scene at the start with the guy doing like parkour, and it just really goes to show what you're in store for with the Daniel Craig era movies. It's just shot really well. You know, you can see everything that's going on. It's not quick cuts or nothing like that. I just love how Bond is chasing the guy. The guy's way more faster than him and more agile, but Bond uses his smarts to keep up with them, using the things at his disposal and using his strength, and, just running through walls instead of having to go through little cracks and stuff. And when he knows his mission's compromised and he's about to fail, he thinks on his feet, just blows up everything, all the tanks and stuff. It's just an awesome intro, and the movie just never really lets up. Even when the action slows down, the story is just so interesting. For example, the whole poker game. I mean, it's full of tension and everything, and there's no action whatsoever. Mads Mikkelsen plays a great villain as Le Chiffre, or the Chiffre. I don't know how you would say it if you're French or English or whatever. But yeah, he plays a great villain. He's not even at the top of the food chain in the organization, and he's still a huge threat. And of course, Mads Mikkelsen just gives off that great charisma, with his eye bleeding and his asthma. Just add little things to it. But yeah, he wants his money, and that whole torture scene with him and Bond is really hard to watch. If you've seen it, you know what I mean. But it's just so inventive and iconic, memorable. That's what this movie is. Everything about it. We get one of the best Bond girls in Vesper. She's such an interesting character. She changes Bond. She makes him see life in a different way. From the start of this movie, he's basically says, I only bang like married women. Basically, I feel like so he doesn't get attached and they don't get so attached, right? But in this movie, he falls for this girl and she falls for him. There's a real love there. They have great chemistry together between the two actors as well. And just how, like the whole scene where she's crying in the shower after witnessing two people being murdered, it just goes to show how more grounded they want to make these films. And the whole twist with who was she really working for, and the blackmail and everything involved with that is great. It makes for a great final act, great ending. And Bond is kind of torn by the end of this film, and the relationship with Vesper carries out, even though she's gone at the end of this one. It carries out throughout all these films' storyline. It's that important. All the films connect back to Casino Royale. So those films work better as watching these in a marathon. But this movie works perfectly on its own. Not just because it's a start. It doesn't have all the baggage of the sequels, right? Just a brilliant film. It's got great action, great cinematography. Daniel Craig really shows right off the bat that he was meant to play this character. He's a great version of Bond, something different that we never seen before. He's serious, violent. The movie feels gritty, but at the same time, there's a personal side to Bond in this one, and you can see that arc throughout these movies, that how he has flaws and he's just more relatable than maybe like Sean Connery's version or Roger Moore. The intro to this movie is great as well, in black and white, and it's really gritty, where he's kills the guy in the bathroom. Great opener, great finale. It's chocked full of memorable moments, and it easily comes in the first place in this Bond ranking. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 5 Bond movies starring Daniel Craig. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you drop your rankings in the comment section below. We'll have a great discussion. Make sure you follow me on Letterboxd and Instagram if you're interested. Links to those are in the description of my video. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more rankings like this. Up next, I'll probably do Pierce Brosnan the next time I return to 007, which will be within the next few weeks, so stay tuned for that. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.